Hello, everyone. We're back. The Power of Food. We've been here through the whole day with a lot of interesting and very relevant talks. I hope you are following us. This Power of Food is an emergency special edition of our symposium, Sang na Guerra. Today, now, we have Enrico Vignoli and Ryan King. Enrico is the back office director of Francescana Group, and Ryan is editor-in-chief of Fine Dining Lovers. Please stay there. We'll be back in 30 seconds.
See you guys. Don't go away.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Enrico. Thank you, Ryan. We are just starting this conversation. As I was saying, Enrico is back office director of Francescana Group and also events curator and gastronomic consultant. Ryan is editor-in-chief of Fine Dining Lovers. Guys, thank you so much again. Taking your own words, is this a new world with no meaning?
Well, thanks very much for having us. Thanks very much for inviting us, and thanks for everyone who's watching at home and getting involved in such a wonderful event. I think me and Enrico, I speak for both of us, we're saying that you put on an amazing event, and we've been watching it ourselves this morning throughout the live streams. The list of speakers that you put together is really brilliant. So I'd just like to start this talk by saying thanks very much. When you asked us to discuss this together, I mean, me and Enrico, we often find ourselves in the back of events, in the backstage, having a conversation, and we always center around the same topic. It's restaurant business, restaurant economics. It's actually why we're launching a podcast together. We've got a new podcast coming out together, me and Enrico on Fine Dining Lovers, which is all about restaurant economics. So today, I think what we decided to do is, instead of having that conversation behind the scenes, is have it in front of the scenes. So Enrico, if I was going to see you now backstage, the first thing I would say is, dude, just how bad is this? How bad is it?
It's bad. We would be lying if it weren't bad. It's bad. First thing is because the restaurant industry is made on family business and small business most of the time, who struggled because this business is based most of the time on passion and relies on tradition or a big passion to be something that relies on clients and passion of customers. And of course, many of this business doesn't have a business plan. They don't have a strategy and a real check of the economics, and they're used to do the thing in the best way they can, and that's it. One other aspect is related to tourism, because we always think about restaurant industry because it's our world. But wait, there are some industries that are much more hit than restaurant industry. We can talk about aviation, we can think about tourism in general, and or sharing economy. All these industries are much more fucked than ours. So, but these industries are also impacting ours, because some cities like Lisbon or Barcelona or Venice or Florence are touristic city where the offer of restaurants is also dedicated to tourism. And we don't know at which moment which people will be allowed to travel, and if they will want to travel. And this will be one of the key of the next month's revolution, let's say.
Yeah, and especially when we bring into account the destination dining locations, these places, you know, yourself, Osteria Francescana, I don't know the numbers up there, but I imagine it's a high percentage of guests that visit there are tourists. I mean, personally, we've been seeing a lot of shifts, actually. We coined the term supplementary service, was something we've been throwing around the office quite a lot, because what we're seeing is lots of restaurants pivot to try and I think what they're trying to do is preempt this issue when they reopen, that there's going to be a loss of tourism, but also that there's going to be social distancing policies in place in almost every restaurant when they reopen. I was speaking to people in the US and they're talking as low as 25% their original occupancy in a restaurant. So you're going to have to create these supplementary services. I know that you've been doing this already, because this is why we talk a lot, and this is why I like the way you think. So what have you been doing to sort of preempt this loss of tourism and also this social distancing when it comes into play, and also try and create some business now while all the restaurants are closed?
Well, one of the considerations you talked about US, and the first thing everyone should do is take a look around. What do you consider your neighborhood, yourself, and your country? Because every country is different. We cannot compare Europe with US. US and Europe have deeply different economic system. In Europe, we have, in most of the countries, a very strong welfare, which doesn't exist in the US. And or UK is a kind of middle ground between the two. So every country is different. So I don't think there is a real answer for what to do from now on, above all now, but everyone should find the answer taking inspiration from what others are doing and from where they are.
Well, let us take some inspiration from you right now. What are you doing? Because
we thought many things, and because the first thing was Massimo's family drove this idea of kitchen quarantine that came from Massimo's daughter, Alexa, and this TV show, a kind of sitcom, and is driven by Massimo's passion. And that was the first great signal of being present. It was a great message that inspired also our team to go on this very small thing called Team at Home, showing what all the guys were doing at home. And then the first thing we did was try to focus on the products. We do have some products that we do produce with, like, extra virgin olive oil and balsamic vinegar. And so we tried to push this, taking advantage of what was happening, because people were needing basic products at home. So we said to the clients that didn't have the chance to come, that look, we can get these products, and to say sorry, if these products are available online in your country, you can get one for free. And so the product is something that is reaching a lot of home nowadays with tech, with good deliveries, and so the step after was to think what else we can do with Francescana. We thought developing the idea of futures and a do-it-yourself delivery. So
tell me about the delivery, because the delivery is really exciting.
Well, everyone is trying to think if delivery is possible. We do have a bistro called Francescana 58, and Francescana is a neighborhood restaurant, but is also a kind of gastro bistro. And what we did was we wanted to bring the experience and the mood of Francescana, which is not just the food, because most of the time nowadays we speak about delivery as something we are bringing the food somewhere. We are feeding people. And fine dining restaurants say, no, we are not doing that because we sell emotions, which is also true. So with Francescana, we looked for a middle ground solution. And so you find a nice wording, which is a kind of Lego style delivery.
Yeah, Lego cuisine, I call it.
Lego cuisine. Because we found this idea of do-it-yourself cuisine with different dishes almost ready to be served, but need to be finished. So to cook the pasta, or to cook the meat, or heat up the meat, or cook the bread, different kind of dishes that you can easily finish at home. And we supported this with a nice graphic and with video recipes made by the chef of Francescana. And finally, we also added a podcast run by our front of the house, Elisa, above all, that comes from theater experience. And she quickly explained the dishes. And after explaining the dishes, there are some episodes that are more about the kind of meta story of the restaurant. So background story of how he's living in this moment in a restaurant, how he's doing the delivery on crazy projects. And we try to see how was the pickup. So we saw that modern people were buying these things above all in holidays. So we went for something crazier, and we made one single day special delivery the 1st of May in Milan. So a holiday, we organized a logistic to Milan. Because the question is, what's your neighborhood? The neighborhood is the place you can reach with your experience. That's the neighborhood. The neighborhood is the place you can reach with what you have at the moment. 6 months ago, we would have said neighborhood is the place you can get with 1 hour plane, probably. Nowadays, if you organize the right delivery, you can get to bigger city even if you have outside. You have to think a bit out of the box.
What I like about this as well is with the podcast, with this idea of bringing in some of the wait staff, you're bringing in the human element of the restaurant experience, and you're adding it to what essentially could be seen as quite a cold box. It's a box that comes and people are on their own. But however, if there's this audio going along with it, you're almost decentralizing everything that you do and sending it all to them. You're sending the whole package. You're sending the personality, the instructions, exactly what would happen if a dish was delivered. They're getting exactly almost a similar experience as what they would get if they visited Franceschetta.
We deeply think that the core of the restaurant experience is people. You know, we want to get the best out of the staff and try to get at your home now. And then we will not stop doing this. We will see what will be available next and try to get it more and more, because social distancing will of course impact bistros as well.
And also I'd like to talk a little bit, one of the big things that happened very early on when this struck, and we saw this across the world, from Latin America to the US to Europe, when we were in our editorial table taking in stories. And what we saw was this launch of vouchers, gift vouchers, bonds. Almost every country, almost every association seemed to bring them. And I'll be honest, we were very reluctant editorially to really put our hat on a lot of them because of the background numbers behind a lot of these schemes just didn't add up to us. A lot of them were delaying the problem. We feared the Groupon effect, which if you remember back in the day with Groupon, that we would have these very small businesses that would sell too many vouchers, and then too many people would arrive with vouchers and they weren't making enough profit. You, however, did this differently. You used the term future. So you sold futures, not bonds. Why? What is the distinction there? I know there's a difference, but explain why you made a big effort to define a distinction there.
You know, in Italy, the word bond is pretty unpopular. And in Europe in general, we speak a lot about bonds, but bonds technically is a debt. So you are taking a debt. And debts don't come for free. So usually when we talk about debts have an interest rate. And in the idea of bonds and vouchers, we often don't perceive the idea of an interest rate, but there is one, because I saw a lot of restaurants selling these bonds for a very, very small value. And the difference between the actual value of it and the price you're selling is your interest rate. And the other thing is, for us, speaking about future is something that it's more positive, because we don't want to, a debt is something I need to fix my past. Future is something I'm asking you to invest in our future, because also as ideologically, it's different. I want to say, in the next 2 years, our group will be there. Our guys will be there. We will all be there welcoming you, and Massimo will lead us and welcome you we'll be the first doing that. So that value will not be lost in this next month. Some things might be changing, but this value will not get lost. Therefore, the future are there and they're numbered, because it's like...
this is important, that they're numbered. And this is what a lot of the systems are.
Because anyone could have bought 1,000 of them and make a huge speculation, you know, like whoever could have done that. But we sent out a different number of each based on what was our idea of the experience of our world. So there were 50 Franciscana dinners. There were slightly more than 100 Franciscana dinner with overnight stay in our house, Casa Maria Luigia, and there were slightly more than 100 Franciscana and Franceschetta, and slightly more than 100 Franceschetta, and that's it. So all these were on a set number, because it's an investment that you are making and you will get it in the next month.
And how do you control that, you don't suddenly open and in the first Monday there's 100 people standing in Modena with a voucher? How can you keep control?
Well, technically we have a booking engine. Everything goes through a booking engine for us. And we know that people will keep on booking. Actually, they are still booking on our system for the next month, because people are looking forward to go out. So these vouchers will be get through the booking engines where there is availability. So people will check availability and will have direct access to 18 months to come to book their space. So there will not be everyone on the same day, because we already have other reservation down.
And I also want to come back a little bit to kitchen quarantine. I know you touched on this just at the beginning. This was the piece that was started by Alexa, Massimo's daughter. I'm sure everybody's seen it. This is Massimo live at 8 p.m. every night on Instagram, teaching people how to cook recipes on lockdown. Were you surprised, one, by the size of the audience that receives? I mean, I think it shows you that there's millions of people there waiting to watch and listen to you guys, listen to chefs and take tips from you. And two, is this a new form of communication direct from the restaurant into the home? Cutting out the influencer, cutting out all of the stuff in the middle and going very direct. I mean, now you've followed up with meal boxes. You're speaking to them and teaching them how to cook. I'm just wondering, I watched a talk the other day by the Basque Culinary World Centre, and I thought it was very interesting that Douglas McMaster, the chef, spoke about this idea of decentralizing the restaurant. We've always said that the restaurant has to be this physical space that we visit, but actually you create experiences, you look after us, you create magical worlds. That's what a great restaurant does. And I feel like we've decentralized that now, and there could be more opportunities for chefs if they carry on with that philosophy. We spoke a lot with Anna Ross. I mean, I know she's speaking at this event, and Anna Ross has been on lockdown with her team for over 50 days now in Slovenia. But using that time on lockdown, they actually developed whole new products, because they didn't have a restaurant to run. They had all the staff there. They had all this wonderful milk to use from the mountains. So they've developed an ice cream. And I personally, as a consumer, as a writer, but also just as someone who loves food, I would love to see that as well. I would love to see the big chefs come down to an even wider level and say, okay, we're going to use our producers and we're going to make some products and we're going to go to the big boys and we're going to work with the big supermarkets. And if I could walk down the shelf in a couple of weeks at the supermarket and buy some of Massimo's sauce, then, damn right, that's the sauce I would choose. Why do you think chefs have not gone there in the past? Why do you think it's taken a shock like this for chefs to sort of see that opportunity?
Because all the chefs or restaurant industry is much focused on the restaurant. The restaurant was an overgrowing industry in the last years. We saw it growing in the last 7 years so much. And everyone was focusing on getting the best experience for the guest. And fine dining has always been defined by what was happening in that place. And it's right to question yourself about what is the value in coming in fine dining. Sometimes you go to an event cooked by amazing starred chef and you don't get a good experience. This happens. I don't know if you want to say that, but the truth is this happens 90% of time. The quality of an experience of an event cooked by chefs is not up to the par usually. For us, it's always been the biggest challenge to make the best, to bring the Franciscan experience to an event. And it's a huge effort, super expensive, honestly, super expensive. Because you want to nail it. You want to get the experience, not just the food. It's not like prepping something and getting there. You want to bring the experience there. So now the chefs are forced to a halt, and they have the time to think about what they can do with their experience, their passion, their ideas, their products, their relationship. And they have time to listen to what's about technology, what's about delivery, what's about new ideas, new, fresh, because you're forced to. This kind of thing, it's what is giving fresh air, because we are looking to the future. I mean, we are always wondering about when we'll be back there. Of course, everyone has a great memory of what was the restaurant industry months ago, but in the end is where are we going now? So this is the thing, and to get to the future, you need also to find new ideas for the now. And now is a suspended time, but it's the time between yesterday and the future you are building.
Yeah, and also, come on, now has never been a better time. If you had an idea, if you had something in the back of your head that you were thinking about testing, the world will never be more forgiving of new ideas than in the next couple of months. This is the time to bring things out. This is the time to test.
We're all doing mistakes, trying new things. Everyone is doing mistakes, everyone. But now no one will notice because you have time to do them. Everything is changing. So people are like following different things and see where they are going.
Okay, guys, I have a question here from the audience, from Guilherme Felipe.
You have to thank the audience for being here, for being at home with us.
I'm not so well
Thank
polite.
everyone. Yes.
Sorry, guys.
Thank you.
So I will repeat. Okay, thanks for the audience.
Paolo.
Do you guys think that the future of the restaurants depends on neighborhood marketing?
Who posed this question?
Guilherme Felipe.
Thank you, Guilherme. Thank you.
Relies on what? Sorry.
On if the future of the restaurants depends on neighborhoods marketing.
Well, first, what's the future? So there is two questions on this. When you say future, how much in the future? Yeah. I think in 2 years from now, I was listening to Andoni before. I totally agree with him. In 2 years from now, international tourism will be back, and wealthy customers will be back to fine dining places, and big experience kind of restaurant, destination restaurants will be back as fast as possible, as soon as the flights will be back. Other restaurants should define what is neighborhood for them. What's neighborhood? Franzetta is Modena, is in Emilia-Romagna, but we set up this delivery on Milan, and Milan became our neighborhood.
Okay.
For like 1 day. So neighborhood is a definition not just of space, but also of time. How much time do you need to be open? Maybe you have less seats, you can be open more days. Maybe
I think you're also lucky in your neighborhood because you're well placed there. You have you have the Tortellini project, which touches everybody. You have Franceschetta, which touches the middle. You have the high-end restaurant, which touches that. You have Massimo speaking to how many people a night? 1 million people. Is that also your neighborhood? I don't know. I think you're well positioned in your area. I think some restaurants will not be positioned as comfortably as you. That, perhaps you're only a fine dining restaurant. You've never once served the locals. 90% of your customers are tourism. Yeah, if I was advising those people, I would say that you should be looking to help and work within your community and at least find what it is that connects you with your community, your local community. So at least you're relevant to them. I think of someone like Rodrigo Oliveira from Mocoto in Brazil. He's had this restaurant where forever he's had this democratic dining. As soon as this happened, he was working with the local community and his relevance has remained, and they'll be there to support him when he reopens. So I think there is probably some drive to reconnect with neighborhoods and communities. But I think for you, Enrico, it's probably a little bit different because you have so many touch points in Modena that you are integral. You are the community. You are the culture there. You're the beating heart of that place.
I was speaking with the other restaurants in Romagna, the side of the region closer to the seaside here, and there are no big city there. Who's having the best success? Who's having the best logistics over the towns? I was speaking with Magnolia restaurant, 2 Michelin star there. Usually they were working a lot with tourism, but they organized a great delivery service, bringing their staff to Ravenna, Forlì, Faenza, all the town of the area with their own trucks because they were set for catering. So they're using their trucks to bring food in every small town of what's neighborhood? That's a whole region technically, and they're bringing their stuff with a good logistic there, and they're selling like hell. The same is doing Gianluca Gorini. So when I say the neighborhood is a matter of meaning, it's also you have the chance now to define neighborhood also in terms of logistic. You know, like how far can you go bringing your customer? Of course, you are not thinking to drag customers from all over, but you have to redefine what is your neighborhood, because we still have all the tools of contemporaneity.
Well, with that in your head, what about, I mean, I know you're delivering to Milan from Modena, which if anyone doesn't know, that's, you know, that's quite an undertaking. It's not a small journey. It's quite a big delivery logistical decision. What about the idea of, I know dark kitchens now are accelerating, this idea of having a kitchen that you can rent for a couple of days. I mean, does that increase your neighborhood? Could you go to one in Milan for a few days, one in Bologna for a few days, one as far as Florence, and you start to almost do pop-ups?
We will thinking about that. We are meeting tomorrow to think about these opportunities, because everything is ongoing now. And I think these are the same questions that everyone should be making. Talking about neighborhood, there are some e-commerce from small farmers in Calabria or in Sicily that are setting themselves for fast deliveries all over Italy. Or Sardinia as an e-commerce that is delivering in 48 hours in Italy, because they make bigger shipment and they have a storage in Rome, and from there they have all the shipment going. So these questions are not just for us, are questions that everyone should be making nowadays to understand what can be done. Dark kitchen, as you were saying, has been an increasing thing in the last days, in the last years. Most of restaurant of fine dining we're not considering, but why not? If you are trying to think to work better with your guys, maybe you can have some of us going in a kitchen and produce dishes elsewhere for a while, because we need that market at some point. So we have to redefine and to answer new questions, and it's a process that is ongoing. I think the best thing is to make questions at the moment more than having answers, and because we can make mistakes, as you were saying.
I also think of someone, last night I spent a long time on the phone with Grant Katz at a Linea in Chicago, mainly because they were so quick into delivery. They run the Tock platform, so they pivoted that to Tock to Go to offer restaurants the chance to offer pickup. And what I was interested in is when he first started, he was doing, this is a 3 Michelin star restaurant, doing $35 beef Wellington, mashed potatoes and creme brulee. The new connections he now has with the local community are stronger than he ever had, because more people were able to access his food. And okay, I mean, he admits he had to do it for the first few weeks through gritted teeth. I'm a 3-star chef and maybe my supply is not the same. And am I really not going to be able to get that heirloom tomato that I use for the sauce and that wonderful beef, rare beef that I bring in? And actually now he's fully embraced it. And I don't know if anyone noticed, but they had their 15th anniversary through delivery recently. And they've sent the famous dessert that they plate on the table, which is very famous, with instructions to people. And he said we had pictures back of people showing us the candles and the linen that they'd set up. And so they've connected to a whole new audience. And that, for me, this type of stuff is not going to go anywhere when restaurants reopen. That is your supplementary. That's how you back yourself up with half the amount of people in the restaurant with problems with tourism. This is your kick up. This is it. And eventually, for me as well, going forward, when restaurants are back at capacity, like Enrico positively predicts in a few years, we're back at capacity. They don't go anywhere, because you realize you're setting yourself up for the future in a much better sense then as well. You're making yourself more sustainable. You're putting more money in the bank. You're allowing yourself to weather a hit like another pandemic or climate change issue or anything else that might close restaurants for weeks.
Anna, do you have more of a question?
I was looking for the question here. But the question was, I can't remember. He's here. Sorry, guys.
Please, you're doing a great job.
We are receiving a lot of messages. Sorry. Messages for you, for everyone. Manuel Freire de Andrade. Thank you, Manuel, for being there. He asks you, guys, also do you see changes we are now going through, and the ideas that come from it, like Anna Ross ice cream? And if these changes and these new ideas are here to stay even after the crisis.
I 100%, because I've always said that chefs have a much bigger audience than they feed. Way bigger, yeah, like way bigger. Chef's Table showed that. How many followers does Massimo have, Enrico?
1.3 million.
1.3 million, and there's no way 1.3 million are going through the doors in Modena a year. You know, let's say he serves 1% of his audience now, and he's proven it. And these are active audience. These are people who trust chefs. These are people who wait for them. These are people who follow them. Look at the tours. When chefs go on tours, the audience is there. Noma can sell out in Japan in 24 hours. Alinea can come to Madrid and sell out in 24 hours. The audience is there, and if you can take it down to a more, it's democratic. No, we're democratizing delicious, and I'm all about that. If we can bring it down to a wider level, and I promise you, no one will get a meeting with a supermarket faster than someone like Anna Ross or Massimo Bottura, because they're waiting for that call. In fact, there's something that stopped them doing it for so long, and I can't help thinking back to Ferran. The irony is that it was Ferran Adria who went to the food industry 20 odd years ago and took spherification from them. It wasn't his. It was taken from the food industry. So perhaps now we get to the point where we're ready to share our knowledge with them and feed a much wider audience. And guys, being really pragmatic, that equals money, because it's the bigger group of people, and you're selling products at a lower level. The markup there is much higher.
Yeah, these ideas will be staying in any way. This is why we have to think positively of all the opportunities that we can get now, because there is no way that just complaining is getting us out of the shit. Like, complaining never helps. Now, the only thing we can do now is trying to find new ideas and see which ones will be up there after. And I think many of these, well, I agree with Ryan on this. This way we have to rethink the process. We have to rethink our concept of neighborhood. We have to rethink the value of the work of people inside the industry, to understand why the people are going to restaurants. Are the people going just to have that dish, or to make an experience? Who's making the experience? I think people are the experience. So the value is in the people. I don't think the value is having someone chopping one single onion, small squares for 12 hours. That's not bringing any value to any restaurant in 2020 or 2021.
This is another topic we often touch upon, this idea of, restaurants are still working on, as much as they evolve, they always evolve on the plate. They're some of the most innovative and quick moving environments in the world. Actually, organization of kitchens is still based on Escoffier's brigade system, which is, over 100 years old and is based on the army. We still, when a chef says, "Did you chop that onion?" everyone screams, "Yes, chef." It's still got a military vibe to it, the kitchen. I would love right now to see some of that creativity that's happening on the plate, some of that evolution that's constantly moving in dishes, also be applied to models of business, to, like Enrico said there, you might have shift work, you might have some packing the deliveries for a couple of days, which gives them a little bit of a lighter load. Maybe they work in the restaurant for a couple of days where they get the heavy load, and then maybe they get to travel to one of the ghost kitchens or the dark kitchens where they can also have a bit more fun and a bit more of an experience outside. I personally believe that I agree with this whole onion chopping thing. It's designed to break people. It's very military. It's the same as making people climb an assault course. And one of my major topics before all this was about the sustainability of the human in the kitchen. And I think if we can have that conversation now during all of this, and while we're trying to sustain business models, while we're trying to keep ourselves alive, let's also maybe say, look, when we reopen, there's some things that should change. I don't know exactly what that is, because of course the restaurant it's an adrenaline-based, difficult business that requires a lot of labor-intensive work to give us the amazing experiences that we've come to love. But I totally agree with Enrico that if now we could be having a conversation about the human element, because without them, none of this exists, none of it. And I'm sure it's that podcast that you send that is what people remember. They eat the burger, they enjoy the burger, but it's the story of the people with the podcast that they remember. It's the experience. It's Massimo teaching them to cook through this. It's this connection.
We should shift from the army model to the teamwork model.
Teamwork, yeah. Even startup. We should have a more techie vibe to kitchens. We should have a more Silicon Valley approach to it.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question.
A lot of questions for you guys. We are trying to select one more.
Yeah, we have here from Chef Antonio Golapito from Prado Restaurant. And it's a provocation. You talking a lot about big gastronomy names, but how about the small culture restaurants? How do you see it? Or even the casual restaurants that just want to offer great quality prices?
I think the same rules apply. We're using the big examples because they're the examples everyone knows. And let's be honest, they're the guys that, they're the ideas that come down. They're the innovators of this. They're role models. They're the people that people follow. So we're using the big examples, but I don't think this, this does apply to the smaller places. I've seen restaurants become grocery stores that nobody knows about, that's never heard about before. I've seen restaurants pick up social initiatives. I've seen restaurants doing meal boxes in London and nobody would know the name of them. These are local community restaurants. If anything, I think that if you already have that place in your community, maybe you have a head start on some of the big names. Maybe you're actually ahead of them, actually, I would say, because you've already got those links with your local community.
You have more one for now? Do you want to answer this one, Enrico, 2 minutes also, or Antonio Golapito? Enrico?
I agree with Ryan. I mean, this is part of what we were speaking before, and we have to remember that some restaurants, above all in Lisbon, like I know Prado, and they're also relying on tourism, and that's the truth. I don't know what are the tourism numbers, but without thinking about also other industries that are in pain now, we couldn't solve the bigger problem. To make an example, Italian people travels a lot. One of the people that travels the most. So if all the Italian people are staying home and keep traveling at home, they might sustain part of that tourism. Mm-hmm. So this can be a new opportunity, but this thing will come on a higher level when maybe the government or association can give a big input of this kind of movement. In Italy, like Sicily region is supporting the travel to Sicily financially to have more people going there, sustain that travel, even from Italy. And the Italian government is thinking to give a support for investing holidays in the country this summer. Because we need to have this relationship. We have to understand that the answer is putting together whoever is in the shit now. Because maybe the answer can be close one to the other.
Okay, guys, we have to go, Paulo.
No, we have more 4 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, so I'll go back to that question just quickly because I think I understand where they're coming from. We don't have the advantages that some of the biggest names have, some of these leaders have. I think overall, I want people to take from this talk that this isn't all doom and gloom. I think we spent a few weeks, all of us with the bottle in the dark, wondering what was going to happen to this industry. You guys are the most creative people in the world, really. When it comes to innovating or coming up with ideas or changing things, I think you've presented so much wonderful stuff. I think you've got that knowledge, you've got that ability to be able to place this towards your business models and come up with unique ways. I think we've touched the iceberg. I love to say that we're the geniuses that know the best ways. I think we're touching the tip of the iceberg. I know Enrico's probably got 5 or 6 things that he hasn't even mentioned here yet because he's not ready to put them out that he's planning. So I think it's about hustling, guys. And this is an industry of hustlers. Yeah, this is it. You are all hustlers. You all go out there and you get stuff done. And I think for me, any take home from this should be that it isn't all negative. There's so many positive examples around. There's so many places you can look to see interesting case studies, interesting role models, interesting ways. And if you don't have an idea, perhaps you can take inspiration from one of the ideas that's around you.
I do have a question. Can I make a question? What's the role of journalists in this moment? What's the role of gastronomic journalists in this moment for you? Like for you, Ryan, even for you, Anna and Paulo. What do you think?
We need another hour on that. I mean, I would say we're also going through some changes now. I would say it's time for us to also reflect a little bit. what were we focusing on? Did we allow the term sustainability to be thrown around very loosely and become a buzzword and actually lose all of its meaning and its significance? I hope that we lose a little bit of the fat, just like, you know, I think we've had a little bit of food journalism that hasn't been good for too long. I think we've had some that are there just for the Instagram shots, some that are there just for the opening, some that are there. You must get the emails from these people that try to beg for a free meal and they want to come. I think that we've seen right now that the influencer is the chef. They can speak directly to their people. They actually don't need a middleman to do that. And I think journalism will come out of this a lot leaner. Personally, we have pivoted on the site. I mean, I was in control of the site when this happened, and I was steering the ship through Corona waters. And I was like, okay, how do we do this? We have to inform. We have to become a service journalism. I go back to my days when I was a news journalist at the BBC. We inform. Our job is to provide resources. Our job is to provide information that's valuable and debate that's valuable. And we should challenge more. That's the bit that we've probably let ourselves down on. Me personally as well, because this is a relationship game, because everything's based on how you know people and how you can connect with people and how many conversations you can have. I will say that one of the big revelations of myself as a journalist was at the end of the meal when the chef comes out and says, "How was that?" Being the guy that says everything was brilliant gets you nowhere. Really. Being the guy who says, actually, this was great, but this one, what are you doing there? And he says, oh, yeah, I'm glad you said that. That was a test and we wanted to see what you thought. You've got to be a bit more honest with these guys. Okay, we have relationships, but I'm not sure if necessarily they should be our friends. And perhaps we got a little bit too friendly, and that didn't allow us to be as honest or as impactful as we could be as journalists. Mm-hmm. We personally, on Fine Dining Lovers, we tried to open up the platform. What we did is very much immediately, we tried to say, this platform is your platform. We've created this platform on your ideas. So if you want to speak. So we had an interview with Ferran Adria and we allowed him to say what he wanted. We've let chefs write for us if they want. You know, we've got Jeremy Chan in the UK writing a piece about his business model and how he was really proud of the fact that he had a 6-month reserve fund for people. So one of his proudest moments as a chef was nothing to do with chefing, but was more to do with his accounting. So we've tried to open this up a little bit. I'm not saying we're perfect. I'm saying, you know, we've broken the rules, man. I know that you're allergic to clickbait, Enrico, and you always shout at me for this. And it's a balance we have to play because, you know, you're still a media publishing company. It's just like you have to get so many people through the door, and I have to work out ways to do that. However, part of me thinks now that this has really shook us up. It's made us a lot more serious. And I hope that echoes throughout the whole industry. I think there are some great leaders. I think Lisa Abend is wonderful. I think, you know, that's somebody to be looking at and reading. I think the Mad Academy, anything that they've been doing since this has been really inspiring. Anything that Sasha Corriere has been doing at the Basque Culinary Centre has been really good. They're the sort of people I would highlight. And I hope that people look at them and say, okay, if I'm going to get in this game, it's not because I'm in it for a free meal or because I've got 2,000 followers on Instagram, or that's not even big, is it? I mean, 20,000 followers on Instagram. I think I hope we lose that a little bit. And if so, then we maybe sort of would have seen some of these issues before they happened. We would have maybe highlighted the fact that this industry was built on some houses of cards, and actually it was only going to take one pandemic to knock the whole thing over. So yeah, personally, we've been very reflective at the same time as you, but I'm positive about everything. I think we'll all come out of this a little bit sharper and a little bit more honest and a little bit more transparent.
Great.
Absolutely, guys.
It's time to finish. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Ryan.
much. It was a wonderful conversation. We had a lot of interaction here with you guys, a lot of questions.
Thank you very much.
Some messages here.
Can I speak? Because yes. I had the idea to invite Enrico, okay? And then this is one of the beautiful things of this event. We give freedom for our first victims like Enrico to choose another victim, and you were an amazing, surprising victim. Thank you so much, Ryan. This talk was amazing, full of content, super emotional. I feel emotion, and we didn't have time for so many questions that were coming to us. Sorry for the ones that are at home.
Guys, feel free to find us online and send us any questions, and we'll try to find us on
the podcast will come soon.
Yeah, we have our podcast coming soon.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, guys. Thank you so much.
Stay 30 seconds.
Don't get the S, okay?
Please. we say goodbye to Enrico and Ryan, but we'll be back at 4:30 Lisbon time for another slot to talk about sustainability. We'll have Bo and Dylan from Bangkok. We'll have our dear friend Cesar Costa from Brazil. And this conversation will be moderated for another friend, which is João Ferraz. This is a family party.
Yeah,
Stay
don't
there.
lose this one, guys.
Stay there, stay home. We'll be back in 15 minutes. Thank you, guys. Bye.
See you guys.
See
Thank
you.
you very much.